This is Words of Light Bible Study. My name is David.
Let's give this a try.
You may be hearing God's Word as it is in the Bible, or you may be hearing a distorted version of God's Word that is lethal because it strays away from Bible truth through intentional deceit.
And also, you may be ignoring God's Word altogether every chance you get.
So let's give this a try. You can hear. Yes, you can. But can you perceive?
Can you understand?
Do you have a handful of seconds in time to give heed to God's Word? Part 2 from the book of Romans, chapter 1 and verses 19 and 20. I read from the King James Version of the Holy Bible. Because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God hath showed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. End of verse. I'm going to read these verses from the book of Romans, but this time I will read from a version of the Bible called the Easy English Bible. I read again verses 19 and 20. They should understand what God is like, because God himself has shown it to them clearly. Ever since God made the world, he has been showing people clearly about himself. We cannot see God, but the things that he has made show us clearly what he is like. We can understand his great power that continues forever.
We can know that he is the true God.
So there is no reason for anyone to say we could not know about God. End of verse. Did you hear that? Will you put forth any effort to truly understand what was spoken? Now part 3 from the book of Job, chapter 12, and verses 7 through 10. King James Version. I read, But ask now the beasts, and they shall teach thee, and the fowls of the air, and they shall tell thee. Or speak to the earth, and it shall teach thee. And the fishes of the sea shall declare unto thee. Who knoweth not in all these that the hand of the Lord hath wrought this, in whose hand is the soul of every living thing, and the breath of all mankind. End of verse. Did you hear that?
Nature proclaims the truth of God.
Do you understand that? Do you perceive? Part 4. I read next from the book of James, chapter 1, and verses 23 through 25. King James Version. For if any be a hearer of the word, and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass. For he beholdeth himself, and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was. But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty, and continueth therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed. End of verse. I ask you, discern, recognize become cognizant of, become aware of, become conscious of, grasp, understand, comprehend, apprehend, figure out, deduce, come to a conclusion. Part 5. I read now from the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 5, King James Version. Examine yourselves, whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves, how that Jesus Christ is in you, except ye be reprobates? End of verse. If you are rebelling against the truth of God's Word, God has words for you to hear and understand. From the book of John, chapter 8 and verse 44, and from the King James Bible I read, Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. End of verse. Do you ignore God's Word? Do you fail every day to hear God's Word? Do you deny the truth of God's Word? Do you simply go your own way without regard for your eternity or the responsibility you have as a man for your own family? Are you avoiding God? Please hear this and understand. From the book of Romans, chapter 3, verses 25 through 26, and this time from the New International Version of the Holy Bible, I read, God presented Christ as a sacrifice of atonement through the shedding of his blood to be received by faith. He did this to demonstrate his righteousness, because in his forbearance he had left the sins committed beforehand unpunished. He did it to demonstrate his righteousness at the present time, so as to be just and the one who justifies those who have faith in Jesus. End of verse. Did you hear that? Do you begin to perceive the simplicity of believing in God's Word and having faith in God's Word? From the book of Hebrews, chapter 11 and verse 6, I read, But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. End of verse. Now hear and understand what the world does not want you to hear and understand. From the book of John, chapter 14 and verse 9, and from the King James Version, I read, Jesus saith unto him, Have I been so long time with you, and yet hast thou not known me, Philip? He that hath seen me hath seen the Father. And how sayest thou then, Show us the Father? End of verse. I read now from the book of John, chapter 14 and verse 6 from the King James Version. Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. End of verse. From the book of John, chapter 5 and verse 10, I read from the English Standard Version, Whosoever believes in the Son of God has the testimony in himself. Whosoever does not believe God has made him a liar, because he has not believed in the testimony that God has borne concerning his Son. End of verse. The book of John, chapter 1 and verse 4, King James Version, I read, In him was life, and the life was the light of men. End of verse. The book of John chapter 8 and verse 12. Then spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. End of verse. Matthew chapter 16 and verses 13 through 17. King James Version, I read, When Jesus came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, Whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? And they said, Some say that thou art John the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremias, or one of the prophets. He saith unto them, But whom say ye that I am? And Simon Peter answered and said, Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered him, and said unto him, Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. End of verse. Have you answered that question?